10,000 feet, in our brief, that is our out-of-control ejection altitude. Before we ever step to fly, we know that if we go through 10,000 feet and we don't have control of this airplane, it's time to get out. And here I am, blazing through 10,000 feet. We don't have a good idea of our attitude, and I commanded the bailout. Got in body position and pulled the handles, and in that length of time, a reaction time, another 4,000 feet went by. And at 6,000 feet, pulling these handles, the canopy blows off of the aircraft. The sequencing starts. The back seater fires out into supersonic wind. I followed shortly thereafter, maybe a second separation. Boom, out into the wind blast. The force of the wind at 800 miles an hour is so great, it's like being hit by a freight train. My helmet and mask were immediately ripped off of my head. My earplugs blown out of my ears. All the blood vessels in my head and face were broken. My head was swollen the size of a basketball, and my lips were the size of cucumbers. My front teeth were chipped. My eyeballs were completely black from the blood vessels being broken. My life preserver was shredded. My T-shirt underneath my flight suit looked like somebody had taken a razor blade and shredded it. All of the patches that we wear on our uniform were blown off. The harness buckle that we have across here impaled my ribs and broke my ribs. My left arm went around. It hit the back of the seat. The muscle that holds your chest together, your pectoral muscle, was torn apart when it went back. My arm hit the back of the seat. My elbow dislocated. It was bent backwards. Both of my gloves were blown off. My watch was ripped off. My right leg snapped the ejection handle off. My leg then went across the jagged part of the handle. It cut right through my G-suit, flight suit, and gashed the back of my leg wide open. We have these retaining bars on the seat. They're designed to keep your seats within the confines so that they don't get out into the windstream and start whipping around. Well, they had never had anybody survive an ejection at this speed, and they'd never tested the seats at this speed. My leg bent that bar out at 90 degrees. My leg went out into the windstream and started whipping. The only thing holding my right leg on from the knee down was the artery, the vein, the nerve, and the skin. Everything else was completely just destroyed. My left leg bent the bar out about 45 degrees, and when it couldn't go out any further, my leg snapped at the bottom half. My foot went out into the windstream and started spinning around in circles. So I am coming down in this parachute, completely exhausted, hanging in the straps. I could feel the cold night air on my face, and I could hear the parachute ruffling above me. I knew I was alive, but I was not in good shape. Immediately, the training kicks in. I have no idea how high I am above the water. I have no idea how long it's going to take before I hit the water, but there's some things that I need to accomplish before I do. So I immediately went through my post-ejection checklist. I looked up, saw my canopy. I couldn't see if it was damaged or not, but I could tell that I wasn't dropping like a rock, and I thought, well, this is a good thing. I'm hanging here, I'm coming down, I'm floating down, so evidently this is working. I then went down to my helmet and mask. We're supposed to be able to take our visor and put it up on our helmet. Well, I didn't have to worry about that. My whole helmet was gone. The next thing we do is we check our seat kit. When you're launched out of the seat upon parachute deployment, it extracts a seat kit. And in that seat kit, there's a one-man survival kit, a 15-foot lanyard, a one-man life raft, and another 15-foot lanyard that's attached to your right hip. So I reached down. I couldn't see the life raft and the survival kit hanging below me, but I could feel that line, and I could tell that it had deployed. Well, then I went to my life preserver. I looked down at my life preserver, went to try to inflate it. That's when I realized that my arm was bent backwards like that. So I'm trying to inflate this life preserver with just my one hand. And I looked down, and the life preserver just looked like rags hanging around my neck. Well, now I'm getting concerned because I know I'm going into this water, and I know that I need to get to something that floats or I'm not going to make it. So with my one hand and my teeth, I reeled that life raft up to me. 15 feet. With my one hand and my one teeth, and just at the point I grabbed a hold of that raft and could tell it was inflated, I hit the water. Doing that saved my life. I went underneath the water about 6 or 8 feet, but having a hold of that inflated raft pulled me back up to the surface. I came up to the surface, grabbed a hold of that raft, threw my arm over, and about this time my parachute catches wind, and I'm starting to be dragged through the ocean. I'm in 60-degree water, 5-foot seas, and 15-knot surface winds. And here I go for a ride.